All right, we're gonna get started here in a couple minutes. For the topic of today, it's in the video title, I believe. Yeah, scraping the Epstein files using that Python. My country accent coming out on this one. Oh lordy. Yeah, we gonna be doing some of that. Scraping the Epstein files using that Python. um, I'm gonna give people a couple minutes, also kind of buy myself some time to make sure that my keywords and all that's good. Just bear with me here. Let's see. I'm just about done. We're gonna get started here. Just need to do that good old share thing. Um, all right. Y'all ready for this shit? Oh man, this is gonna be cool. Um, let's go. Welcome to the dojo. My name is Dark Mage, and we're gonna be doing some of that Python. Well, I already did some of that Python, and I got this box I just span up using that DigitalOcean. If you don't know about that DigitalOcean, then you need to keep the fuck up because trying to save y'all some money here. See, I'm trying to get paid by saving y'all money. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to undercut competition by just being like quick to the game, right? And we got this problem here, like we got this thing called the Epstein files, right? And I don't really know a whole lot about that shit. Like I feel like if I were to start trying to speak about stuff, I'd be just talking out my ass. There's so much shit. I don't even know where to begin. And I think everybody kind of understands at a certain point that there's kind of like a collective concentric circle where there's an intersection of like what everybody knows and kind of like agrees and understands is kind of like the case about a situation. But as the files start dropping, oh lord, those files be dropping though. So, but the way they be dropping them just be like, man, are you 18 years of age or older? And I'm like, I mean, even if I wasn't, I would still click yes. Obviously, like 2026 and we're still doing this. Like, really? Mm, I mean, all right, I guess. Verified. Verified, baby. Let's go. All right. Privacy notice. In view. Hold on. In view of the congressional deadline, all reasonable efforts have been made to review and redact personal information pertaining to victims, other private individuals, and protect sensitive materials from disclosure. That said, because of the volume of information involved, this website may nevertheless contain information that inadvertently includes non-public, personally identifiable information or other sensitive content to include matters of a sexual nature. In the event a member of the public identifies any information that should not have been posted, please notify us immediately at this email address so that we can take steps to correct the problem as soon as possible. The site houses materials responsive under the Epstein Files Transparency Act. The site will be updated if additional documents are identified for release. Some of the library's contents include descriptions of sexual assault. As such, please be advised that certain portions of the library may not be appropriate for all readers. Last updated 2 days ago. Rather fresh. People are posting about it on Twitter. Like big time. As soon as I saw this UI though, I was like, oh man. I wonder how easy it would be to like kind of poke at it underneath the hood. Right? As anyone should do. To search the full library. Prague. No. No, one of the first things I searched for was actually Linux. And a lot of stuff came back. I was like, oh shit, that's crazy. So then you go click on one of them and it's like, okay, so they give you a list here, right? You get a list of links that you have to manually click on. That's fucking pain in the ass. It's 2026. And we're like nowhere near like Zerg hive mind consciousness yet. Like, come on, y'all. Like, what are we even doing? Like, technology is barely. People are tripping so hard about like LLMs, and I'm just thinking to myself, you know, honestly, there exists a timeline in Earth's potentiality, if you will, where like we are so much further ahead in 2026 than we currently are at as a species. And in a lot of ways, I feel like the LLM thing is a trap. It's absolutely a like, that's not to say AI is a trap, but like specifically LLMs. But I digress. So this kind of interface sucks, right? Let's click a link. Okay, so this is an email, and it's a snapshot of his. It's actually his Quora digest. So Jeffrey Epstein was a Quora user. Top stories from his feed include what on what day was this? July 1st, 2016. So when I was working as a security consultant. What will happen after we die? What about our thoughts? NASA engineer. Was Donald Trump's decision to cheer Brexit a smart move? Patrick Zoidberg. Interested in just about everything but pop culture and celebrities. I'm a student in 10th grade. I have a 146 IQ. Does this mean that I'm smart or have a good chance of going into a good university? Who was the best general of World War II? If Rockefeller lived today, would he be the richest person alive? Let's see. I'm going to pull up the chats real quick, make sure y'all can see me. Want to be able to interface with anybody who happens to drop in. I see the two people on YouTube. How y'all doing tonight? How y'all having a good evening? Whoa, one second. Okay, it looks like I'm good there. All right. What are milestones for Linux knowledge? So I searched for Linux, and that's where it was referenced. So it's clear to me that given 135 results for Linux, that Jeffrey Epstein was interested in Linux. So while people will say, "Oh, Linus Torvalds isn't in the file," is he? I haven't even. Let's check. You know, there's a meme. I hate that. I hate to see this. Also, Linus Torvalds is a registered trademark. Okay, so yeah. So what about Torvalds, right? Okay, so Torvalds appears just a few times. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just in reference to the Linux. So, no significant damaging thing. So technically he's not in the files, but he's in the files. You got to be pedantic about this kind of stuff. When you're like writing a program, you have to be very specific about your requirements. This is why probably sometimes some programmers are autistic or something. Come on, man. Don't climb on my laptop. My cat's being just extra right now. Yeah, just chill out, buddy. All right, so y'all ready for some Python? Because this interface sucks and I don't want to have to fucking open each file in a new tab and then manually save that shit. That's way too much work. I'm trying to be lazy about this. So I wrote this thing called the Epstein scraper. It's over on GitHub. You can go grab it at github.com/MikeDesu/Epstein scraper. And this project is intended to provide a simple means of accessing the Justice Department's release of the so-called Epstein files, which is mostly just a large data dump of PDF files. The web portal forces user to jump through several hoops in order to perform basic search. Lame but not unexpected. It should be easier to do this kind of shit. Download functionality is not very easy from this perspective, and neither is searching. A quick reverse engineer of the protections, LOL, in place resulted in me writing a Python 3 script that allows me to not only perform search using their API, but also retrieve the URIs of any files my searches result in, and also download them. One of the catches of this process is that you need to bypass the age restriction at least once in order to obtain a valid cookie for this script, but it's very easy to do so, and I was basically done within 5 minutes. Copy your cookie into cookie.txt before continuing. I'm not going to get into how to get a cookie. If you're not smart enough to get the cookie yourself, then you're not smart enough to use the script. Let's just leave it like there. But that's why we're going to walk through the script together, so that you will be smart enough to get the script and use it, and thus get the cookie. So, some of the interesting notes about the infrastructure of justice.gov, as I was doing my research on how this little infrastructure worked in writing the script, is that justice.gov has 4 IP addresses at their root DNS record. All of them are A, and they all begin with 172.65.90, and in sequence 24252627. So they're a little block of 4 servers there doing stuff. I believe those are actually Cloudflare. But then the actual application for the .gov/Epstein is at www, and that actually sits behind Akamai Edge Key, which is kind of interesting. There are a lot of layers, a lot of moving parts, and actually, as it turns out, the Epstein application is sitting on AWS. Go figure. Should have seen that one coming. So yeah, we identify some infrastructure as we're doing this. We got Cloudflare, we got Akamai, we got AWS, and we got Qt. I thought was interesting. So if they ever get hit with so much traffic, it's possible that if they're ever under like significant server load, my scripts might fail. Like I literally spent like 5 minutes writing the script. It was really easy and it works. and we're going to test it out. So, why not scrape with Rust? Get the fuck out of here. Oh, God. Do you know how much more time I would have to spend writing code? You know, like my experience with Python is way, 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 way more than my Rust experience. It's very easy for me to just do stuff in Python without having to think about it twice. Further, why would I? That's a more important question: is why Rust for this problem? If you take a look at the size of the script, and you're about to, you'll understand why Rust is totally not even relevant to the question or the equation. You could scrape in any language that you want to. Why Rust? Ew. Gross. If anything, I'm actually looking at this thing called Phil C, which is really interesting. I even been talking with the creator of it on X briefly in kind of like understanding how it works and like why to be enthusiastic for it, because as a C programmer and a C++ programmer, I'm not a really big fan of Rust syntax or way of doing things. I don't know. Shareholder value. Oh, hey, not I didn't see your username, man. I'm blind as a bat. I got you on my other monitor over there. I should have known it. Oh man. Okay. How you doing tonight? All right, so check it out. We're gonna motherfucker, if Rust provides shareholder value, man, I should just like start coding Rust all day. But you know what the problem is? Like doing anything in Rust is a pain in the ass already. And a lot of the stuff that I would want to do involves kind of like building new versions of old things that already exist, and I'm just trying to find like a sweet middle spot. I'm not like trying to reinvent the wheel right now. Maybe it's time I do that. I don't know, man. You know, like I really enjoy Raylib, and it's one of the more trending graphics engine libraries on GitHub for C programs. And I love C and C++ syntax, honestly. Um, and I think that Rust is kind of gross, and it just violates a lot of principles and ways of doing things. It's not just the borrow checker, it's like the process of like unpacking and packing and I can't stand the fact that their request library is named REQWEST. I think that's silly. It's not cargo specifically, and I actually kind of like the concept of what they're trying to do with cargo to a certain degree, which the way that I tried to start writing some of the things in my own game were kind of modeled after that a little bit. Just the whole separation of components aspect and kind of like isolating like functionality into specific files. Kind of nice. And I can understand why compilation times are higher, right? Like they're doing stuff underneath the hood that's previously not available. But it would be really interesting to kind of do a side-by-side comparison with Phil C at some point, because I think if anything, I'm closer to using Phil C if I were to like kind of like force myself into upgrading my memory safetyness in software development, right? So No, it's FILC, and it's made by the creator of or not the creator. He's a compiler guy over at Epic Games, so he's pretty high up in their tool chain. Um, can't really knock the product of someone who works at a multi-million-dollar multi. How what is Epic Games' shareholder value? What was their 2025 revenue? So okay, they made 1.16 billion dollars in player spending alone. Uh, they actually and they were projected to make 6.01 billion, but they did not meet that mark, I believe. But they've also introduced 100% revenue share for developers who sell games on their store. Um, yeah, well, there, and that's another thing. Like some of the way, like I often question why certain things become dominant, right? It's like why do certain tools or certain ways of doing things become the way that everybody else does things? I didn't mean to click that. This is really going to be my end screen, so I'm going back. Um, so let me unclick this thing, right? So now, we're on shitbox. Did it freeze? Yeah, it seems it froze. Okay, there we go. Okay, check it out. So I got this scraper, and this is the source code for it. I was really picky about the tab situation when I was in college. In particular, because I guess the first time I tried to sit down and actually learn it, I couldn't get like my Vim RC or my Nano to play properly with tabs. Tabs have always been a big issue, but what I found is that if you use a tool like Python Black to auto format, like before you actually run stuff every time you make changes, then it ends up being kind of a nice situation. Um, it's very good for like getting something out there really fast, in my opinion, and not like really doing proper engineering. Although people have turned it into that kind of language where you could do some pretty heavy duty computation with it. Like Python, in a lot of ways, has totally replaced like Fortran in like data science and like just like general number crunching in general, due to libraries like NumPy, SciPy, and TensorFlow and PyTorch, and things like that. But that said, let's step through this, right? Like, this is really not that bad. So I'm gonna SSH back in the shitbox and take a look at this. So when you go to run scraper, it asks you to enter a search string and a page number. All right. I'm going to search for Linux and I'm going to search for page 0. Now I'm missing this thing called cookie.txt. So let's take a look at the README. Right? So when I say copy your cookie into cookie.txt, I've actually got a cookie already. Oh yeah, we didn't really take a look at like any of the stuff that's coming down from here. They're using this weird system called Qt, and I guess like if their servers, like I was saying, if their servers get overwhelmed, then there's not going to be like my script is probably going to crash. Like I'm not doing any sort of proper error checking or anything like that. Like I'm not handling all of the error scenarios right now. So one of the things that we can do though, see, this is like kind of what an example of the script's output would look like. And so I'm going to give it an example run, and then we'll take a look at some of the things that I download and just kind of like, just kind of keep this like at a demo of what the script can do, right? So shout outs to the guy on IRC. I forget who it was. I think it was a dude named Cheese or CHZZ, who introduced me to this thing called the AGPL, which is like a superior version of the GPL, because if your code connects to a network, or like you fork my code and your code connects to another computer or does any sort of data transfer to another machine, then, or like, someone else like, connects to your machine, like in the process of interfacing with your forked version of my software, then you are required through the license to disclose your source code. No ifs, ands, or buts. Hack the planet. Information wants to be free. Get fucked. And of course, my contact information at the below. So let us run a demo of this, because I spanned this box up specifically just to test this out. Okay. So because time is money and I got to spin this box down, we're going to keep this as a short stream. I want to do some gaming in a little bit. Maybe I'll do some chess. But I'm pretty happy that yesterday I got the bug in the game fixed, and I'm actually starting to pop some automated bugs during my bug hunting again. So wish me luck on all that. In the meantime, we need to have a cookie, right? I got this cookie right here. All right, so now I have a cookie. So what happens when I run the cookie, or when I run the script, right? So here's what the script does. We're going to go through it line by line before we actually run it. And we're going to do it the old school way with no syntax highlighting. So first we import requests, then we import JSON, and then we import this. These are only 3 libraries that you need in order to actually use this. There's only one function, and it's the main. And the first thing that we do is we make sure that you supply 2 additional arguments when you run the script. Those 2 arguments need to be the search string and the page number. And if you don't have exactly 3 arguments, so in other words, argument 0, argument 1, argument 2, then we're going to return to the OS that there was an error in our script. And so if we have something custom that we've written, we can handle it appropriately. First, the base URL for all of this magic is https://www.justice.gov/multimedia-search ? keys equals. Yeah, it's nothing to do with this fucking stream, my dude. You're in the wrong place. Where is AI? AI is up your fucking ass. That's exactly where it is. Anyways, search term equals sys.argv bracket 1. So this is the first argument. This is the corresponding search string that you pass in from the command line when you run this script. Pagevar is the second variable, but cast into an integer, so we can properly work with it when we actually pass it to our request. The whole reason we need it. Because then we have to construct our URL for our magic request. Starts with the base URL, that's right here, followed by search term, which you pass in from the command line, followed by an ampersand page equals, and then our page variable. Now our cookie variable starts off empty, but now that we have provided our cookie.txt, we can open it and then read it into that variable. So with open cookie.txt, comma, R, that's for read. When we go to write something, we end up using write and write bytes and things like this. There's a lot of different variables that you can put in there. We simply read that as F into the cookie variable. Next, we define a dictionary called headers. This represents all of the different headers that you could attach to a request when you're making it. As an example, and actually even still, you know what's really silly? Is I don't even attach the cookie. You don't even need the cookie. Like, I kind of messed up here. It's like this is actually syntactically incorrect. So I'm gonna have to fix that. That's funny that it still works though. I thought I needed the cookie. Okay, well, never mind. Anyway, so headers are things that you can attach to a request. So an example, your cookie, which might include login information, what language to accept from the server, what kind of content to accept from the server, secfetch site, which I don't even know what fuck it means, but apparently we need it because when I first captured the request in order to find out what headers it was actually returning, one of the things I do in order to figure out like the bare minimum request that's necessary in order to actually scrape content from the site to begin with is by starting to just manually delete each header that like a site might be returning when I actually capture a request. So at the end of the day, this is kind of like the bare minimum request necessary in order to like actually return content. So step one here. actually call request.get with our custom URL and our custom headers. And I just save it in the variable A. So that's our response. And then we take the text of that response, which is just a bunch of JSON, and we load it into my dictionary. And inside of there, there's a key called hits. We grab that key or whatever it's at that location, store it in hits of 0. And then inside of there, there's yet another key called hits. We grab that and we store it in the hits of 1. Then we create a new set. We're going to call it URI set. Now for a hit in hits of 1, we're going to grab the underscore source and set that to the variable called source. Then inside of that, we're going to grab the origin file URI and the origin file name, store them in their own parameters or their own variables. In the URI variable, we're going to replace the raw spaces that we encounter with actually URL encoded spaces, which is %20. Then we're going to create a new tuple containing a file name and URI, and we're going to add them to our URI set. We're going to grab the contents of the key highlight on hit, and then we're going to store it in highlights. In content, we're going to store that in a variable called content. So we're just grabbing each of the things as we're going like kind of nested down into this very nested, intricate JSON infrastructure. And then at the end, we just print the URI. And then for the line in content, which is actually stored in the JSON itself, we're going to print lines from it, however many lines we happen to have. Now for file name and URI in the URI set, so that corresponds to the tuples that we added originally. We're just going to go back through that set and see what we grabbed from it. Because each one of those is a PDF file, and we can just do another request on each one of those, which is going to come back with like raw PDF data, and we could just save it locally. And that's it. So we hit that request. We call it A again, it doesn't matter. And then we just save it. And then at the very bottom, this if name equals main, or this if underscore underscore name, underscore underscore equals double quote underscore underscore main, underscore underscore double quote bullshit. That's kind of like a universal trick to make sure that your program always runs the main program as the first thing that it actually does in your program. Because if you're not careful about like where you actually put things, you may not necessarily know what the first thing that actually executes in your program is to begin with. So, moment of truth, right? Enough talk, enough bullshit. Let's actually run the script. No such. Did we not rsync it? I thought we rsynced it. Oh, I did. Okay, there we go. Let's try it one more time. Um, Something happened. That's not a great first test. Oh, there we go. Okay, so it still works on this end. Um, I'm not gonna hit it too many times for that reason, but there we go. We just had a successful demo. Um, Apparently I didn't need to spin up a VPS, but that's okay. So this is some of the stuff that was returned by my search, and let's actually kind of organize some of this stuff, right? Like, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a new folder. So for each search term that I actually search, we're gonna do this. And then, as an example, let's see. All right, so we're gonna do another search. This time for Linux 1. Oh shit. I think my cookie actually expired. So I would have to get a fresh cookie. And actually I need to verify this down here too. Yeah. Okay, so those are all not good. So I can actually fix that. Give me 1 second here. The search still works, but the files themselves, like we have to get a that's what we actually need the cookie for, I believe. um Let me turn intercept off there. So first age gate you, and then okay, here we go. That was my old cookie. um this is my new one. Okay, that looks good. That felt like it was. Nope, that's still not. Ah, um, let's see. No, I mean the P. It's still. It went through. So there's something else. Hmm. That I'm missing here. Oh wait. Yeah, because I thought we are not like attaching the cookie to this yet. Like, oh, maybe I hadn't finished writing it yet. Okay, that would make sense. Um, invalid header value. What? Oh, what? Or wait, do I need to do like a dot encode? Or wait, no, because what does dot read return? Returns a string, right? Yeah. So I don't know why I would need to wrap this in that, or why I would be treating it like a bytes thing. Uh, see, what are some of the other? Uh, oh, do I have to use a fucking cookie jar? I didn't have to use a cookie jar earlier. Why the fuck? Wait, what? All right, wait, hold on. First of all, what can y'all see right now? Okay, y'all can't see shit. Why is it like trying to think it's like bytes? Yeah, I know those are not correct because you can cat them and they contain HTML, not the actual file that we're looking for. The problem is, actually, I'm not even sure why this started happening. Kind of embarrassing. Oh, is it because of the new line at the end? No, there's no new line. Hmm. Well, originally what I had was the cookie like actually just copy pasted in there. We don't even need these lines anymore. So we can try that again. Okay, no, that actually worked. I don't know why. Okay, I didn't even get a chance to test. I thought I was going to work out the gate. I was wrong. So apparently you got to like actually put the for now anyway. I'm not sure why that works this way and not the other way. So all you have to do actually, so really, let me go ahead and remove that. You're gonna have to put your own cookie in. I showed you how to do it though. And oh, and you know what? I was going to do this also, where I copy the like the actual video link into the README itself to create like feedback loop. Video demo located at okay, cool. So we got some files. We're gonna move all of our PDFs into Linux/0 because that was what our search term was, right? Um, I'm not gonna do any more scraping, but we're just gonna sift through a couple of these. You have now the tools available to you to do your own scraping, if you so choose. Tonight's goal was not to do like sort of like super mass scraping or anything like that. However, you are more than capable of doing your own scraping now. All you have to do is rewatch this video, just follow the steps, modify your own scripts. Make sure that, you know, if you do happen to fork or copy my code, that you give me credit. And as the final taste of this evening, why not? Let's take a look at some of these Epstein files, right? After all, that's what we're here for. I mean, let's see why Linux is why Linux is in the code. Why is he interested in Linux? Um so what's the big deal? Why Linux in the Epstein files, right? You ready? Please wait. If this message is not eventually replaced by the proper contents of the document, your PDF viewer may not be able to display this type of document. You can upgrade to the latest version of Adobe Reader for Windows, Mac, or Linux by visiting http://www.adobe.com/go/reader_download. I think the most horrifying part of this PDF is the fact that in 2016 or whenever this document is from. Does it have a date? No, there's no date. Um, so this document's confidential. This is confidential information that we're looking at right now, or it was previously confidential. I guess it's they managed to sufficiently redact this document, to be able to bring us this important information. Linux is a registered trademark of Linus Torvalds in the U.S. and other countries. Good to know. Good to know that Adobe respects Linus's fucking trademark right here. Okay. What else? What else is in the files? We gotta know. We gotta know. I think the release files are fake. That's an interesting take. Please go on. I mean, obviously, if I'm looking at a PDF Adobe Reader thing, it's like, it really took the time. I mean, could the FBI not be more fucking retarded and like useless and just like incapable of doing their fucking jobs? Holy shit. I'm just saying. Could they be more stupid? So let's see what else we got here. It's another Quora digest. Yeah, we looked at this one already. So this is just like 10. Oh, good. We got a sideways one here. That's fun. What do we got? Is there a way I could rotate it? Rotate clockwise. Oh, really? Are they? Oh, that's so much bullshit. Like they can't have it all one way. Okay, fine. Well, I'm glad I can right click and fucking rotate. Uh, capitalize. That's a lot of money. It's a huge investment in Epson printer and Lenovo Sever. I think they mean server. Talking about upgrading server RAM. Um, so, just a receipt for a fuck ton of computer equipment. Like actually, this is kind of interesting. Um, it's really interesting to see. Is this like something like bill to Southern Trust Company and Liston Network Systems? Interesting that they left the PO box unredacted. But look at like what they're actually rocking here. Back in, what was the date of this transaction? 123. Okay, Epson Stylus Pro. So 121, 2015, right? So on this date, Southern Little St. James. And that's interesting that someone in the original document scratched out and replaced it with Southern, and then the rest is blacked out. That's a little bit interesting. And then the proposal number itself is blacked out. That's really interesting. Um, why would they redact a number? Is that also like a kind of like a psychological trap type situation? Um, Express System M4 Xeon processor 2. So version 2, 2.6 gigahertz, 8 gigabytes, 8 by 2.5 bays, or 8 2.5 bays. DVD, Lenovo system server, processor Xeon, 6 cores, 15 megabyte cache, 80 watts, DDR3 SD-RAM. That's crazy. Um, what is he doing with servers? What is it like? I know he was a hardcore Wall Street guy, but damn, he's also like really deep into computers too, right? Like, I think that's a really kind of curious thing to note. Is that, this is some heavy duty equipment that he's rolling with here. Dropping 18K on an order, billing it to a company. So this is Gene Brennan V. Brock, from Jermaine Rowan to Rich Khan and Jane Brennan. Good day, all. J.E. JE's associates choose the Lenovo server from list of networks. Option 1 looks good with the exception that the memory is low. Having 64 or above would be preferable for experimenting with pattern mining on a big data set. Below are the new specs for the Linux server. Please review and inform me on which option is better for you. Option 1, Express System X3650M4 1URM Xeon 6C E52630. 2.6 gigahertz, 8 gigabytes, 8 by 2.5. Yeah, we read that already. Hot swap hard drive, Lenovo server, system server. Interesting. It's a big hit to Lenovo. Like, imagine going through this many emails just to like order a server. Holy shit. Like, imagine, I mean, all that work to like find the best quote or the best deal. You got like multiple people involved in the process. And this was only 11 years ago. It really wasn't that long ago. They were messing with AI software 11 years ago. Epstein and his crew. Look, Epstein's name right there. Boom. Jermaine works for Epstein, who has expressed interest in running some of our AI software. Jeffrey Epstein was fucking with AI 11 years ago. Nice. Real nice. Good look for AI right now. First you got the stuff on X, now you got this. So apparently Jeffrey Epstein was into AI, and so were his associates, and they were acquiring hardware in order to run their own AI experiments. They were messing with Docker. Our AI software runs mostly easily on Ubuntu Linux and is generally installed via Docker or Vagrant. So if you have Linux or OS X on your machines, we can simply install Ubuntu VMs using Vagrant or Docker and put our software on them that way. In any case, the AI software will actually be running in a virtual Ubuntu environment. So this is all the hardware that they're trying to roll with. I don't see why we need a VPN, but the bandwidth, it's sufficient. Okay, well, let's look at the next one. Is Han Solo really dead? Why was the Elder Scrolls Online not successful? What makes Windows a bad OS? Why does the computer science world force GNU Linux on you? I thought that was funny. Is the 10,000 hours rule true for programmers? Why do developers like Linux so much? Are you hate the AI and why? That's no, I don't hate AI. It's a funny way to ask it though. Okay, so we got a G vacation email to G vacation from an unknown person. Now, what's interesting is they redact the from up here, right? But then you got sc line associates.com right here. And this is like one of the most useless emails to ever, like the most important part of like there's so much information in this black little text, and even then um so when you roll over that, it says vacation. But I wouldn't be surprised if I were to open this up in like some Python thing and it like actually had the stuff underneath. But like what was actually sent to SL at SE line. This is what Epstein sent. Epstein sent a custom counter from timeanddate.com. The billionaire child peddler, super genius math wizard, ultimate connection with the rich and famous and wealthy. This is what this is the kind of thing that he emailed to other people, or he did. This is what he did in his spare time. This is not the mark of a super genius. I'll just say that much. I mean, after all, he got caught, so there is that. But um, all things said, they make effort to try and humanize him by making him appear like he was so intelligent or so gifted in finance and math and science and whatever, and never forget that he was a monster. and that he should not be respected. From Team Boxy. Boxy Alpha is here. Download it to your Linux, Mac, and Apple TV today. We are excited to welcome you to take part in alpha testing of Boxy. Follow this link to validate your email and enable Boxy. Okay, so Jeffrey got some spam shit. Because he had spam. This is a big one. Okay. From and to are both redacted. Subject, external email, FBI Public Affairs news briefing. So I find it interesting that this is something that he got in his inboxes on a regular basis, that he was very tapped in to world events on this level. So this is the FBI Public Affairs news briefing on Monday, November 9th of 2020. Wait a second. Wait a second. This email happened after he died. What? Who? What? I don't understand. Why? Why is this like Linux should be in here somewhere. Cyber criminals targeting Linux users for ransomware attacks. So this is like the FBI's news. It's like, here's the news roundup for today. So it's a pretty big news roundup. They get it in email format, so boomers be like that. They like to digest their information in, kind of like old school plain text. And I feel them on that front. So from unknown person, more from Steve. So this is an email to Jeffrey. Mostly, I believe it is impossibly a new 6 operating system. You have to compete with Windows, Mac OS X, Linux, Android, iOS, and even Google Chrome. It is really hard to imagine how you create something to compete with all these big, hard, fast-moving objects. They're all going in different directions, so it's like adding a fourth car company in 1965. I would side with any of those before I sided with making something from scratch. So that's interesting. That's interesting to think that Jeffrey Epstein was attempting to set foot in the same array as the heavyweights like Terry Davis. So Terry Davis, being the wizard that he was, wrote his own operating system from scratch, including his own compiler. And I don't believe that Epstein had that capability. So, but it's interesting that he was possibly thinking about like paying somebody to maybe do this, or, just kind of consulting on what the viability of like actually competing in the OS marketplace actually is, which really, honestly, to be fair, it's it's interesting to kind of think about, like doing stuff from scratch. And he seems like he is that kind of person where he wants to try and take ownership over as much of certain processes as possible, which is why he was as connected as he was. Um, it's possibly what the situation was there. Uh, but he that guy's not wrong though in his advice. Whoever redacted happens to be. Yeah, so this was a reply to that time and date email. And it's just the person responding, yeah, yeah, yeah. So Jeffrey Epstein sent this guy the custom counter, and the guy responds, yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, like you would think that it's obvious that like when they said they gave us everything, it's like this is more than we need. This is not what is needed. Putting people in a position where they it's like how much of this is actually useful? How much of this is actually going to be used to build cases and to actually bring and serve justice? Not to mention, think that your tax dollars are being used to host this information, and it's like this is some of the most useless shit that like I've ever seen. This is a oh yeah, Masha Drakova. I heard her name recently. She's kind of cute looking. Go figure that he would be or would have been connected with her. Um, Apparently she's also like some crazy Russian spy lady type situation. Uh, so Anna Klein. So Alert Sync, Brian, Jeffrey Epstein, Masha Drakova, and then Alana Klein. So that's interesting. Um, but yeah, so that's a handful of documents that I managed to scrape using this custom Python thingy that I wrote in like 5 minutes. Um, I've been on for an hour and a half now. I think my presentation's pretty much over. Do you have any questions? Now's the time to ask. But I think I'm going to wrap it up here. Any sort of updates and upgrades and things like this, make sure to push them. Anybody will be able to do this kind of thing if they want to. I want to appreciate everybody for joining me tonight. This was fun. I really enjoyed this one. Really appreciate all the attention that y'all are giving me. It's gonna be a hell of a journey, but this was a cool segue. This was something that was a little bit different, a little bit out there, a little bit present, relevant, and guess what? I didn't vibe code any of this. This is done with a good old fashioned human brain. This thing up here. Make sure you use it. Otherwise, you're going to lose it. Y'all have any questions? Reach out to me on X. Otherwise, you can find other links to me at www.evildojo.com. This was satisfactory. I'm pretty happy with this. I don't know what else to search for, honestly, but you know what? Maybe y'all can tell me in the comments. some of the things that might be kind of entertaining and interesting to look for. If you need help using the tools also, feel free to reach out. Or if you have some ideas on how to extend it, hit me up. Until next time, everybody. Evil Dojo signing out. And this has been Scraping the Epstein Files using Python. Good night.